What's going on YouTube? It is the Fuzz here, and this is going to be a topical discussion, mainly focusing around the two franchises, the Call of Duty franchise and the Battlefield franchise. We are entering the next generation, like the dawn of a new age of generation in gaming. So with the two biggest FPS franchises now releasing their latest titles, I thought this would be a better time than any, just before the new era kind of sets in, and the old one kind of slowly gets forgotten, becomes historic. Um, so what I'm going to do here is lay out my thoughts on the two franchises from just the PS3 days. I'm not going to count anything before it, like the PS2, PlayStation 1, PC before. I'm not going to count that. I'm just going to encounter my experiences, my own thoughts, try and share, other people's thoughts that I've read online in forums, on videos, in magazines, whatever. And I'll try and make this as balanced and as unbiased as I can. It's going to be hard, but I'll try my best to do it. So, start things off with Battlefield. The first one I played properly on the newer, soon-to-be old consoles was the Bad Company. Um, I would usually. I started off playing this at my brother-in-law's before I actually got my PS3 console. This is where I set up my PS3 ID, and it was the first proper FPS multiplayer that I'd experienced, with the 12v12 online against each other, and I literally thought it was just fantastic. Um, maps were huge. There was a lot to explore on it, on each zone. Frantic as hell. You had the tanks on some maps. You had the helicopter as well, which took a lot of skill to fly. I kind of mastered it in the end, but it did take quite a lot of practice, and some people on there are just absolute pros at it. But that was my first experience of it, and the hit detection on it wasn't exactly the greatest. I'm sure the ones who played it can share. I think most of the some of the assault rifles had 50 bullets in the clip. 25 plus of them would kill someone. Some of the hit detection was going on at sometimes. Um, but I felt that the game was balanced. You either swapped off high damage for low fire rate, or vice versa for the assault rifles. It was certainly the story with the SMGs. Most of them were high firing, would take quite a lot of bullets or clips to kill someone, unless you were highly accurate with it. But for the most part, it was especially the sniper rifles as well. Headshots from a distance obviously would kill someone, but from a distance, a chest shot would do 90 damage consistently, which I felt to be quite balanced at the time. Because you wouldn't expect to kill someone straight away. You'd mortally wound them, I'd imagine, from a distance of a sniper shot. But I'm no marksman expert in real life. That would be, my take on it. It was the interject, like, knives actually meant something. In a collection of dog tags, your bragging rights and all. It was just a lot of fun to play, in squad with your mates, against your mates, just getting that dog tags just for those bragging rights. And it really got me into the Battlefield, really got me into the Battlefield franchise. And then Bad Company 2 came along, and this is the first Battlefield from which I remember it actually introduced bullet drop, because with the snipers on the first one, wherever you would aim it, that's where it would hit. But come the second one, and if you were sniping from a distance, the bullet, you'd actually see it drop in the scope. So you'd have to compensate for that. So you add in a bit more of a skill element at the same time, making it that much harder to get your sniper kill. So it's actually made it worth, in the process, if actually trying to practice the snipe, those who actually had the patience for it. Once again, maps are insanely huge. Um, they kept on the conquest game mode, which I believe was DLC in the first one. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, please. Um, the conquest game mode is the domination game mode in Call of Duty, but that's we'll get onto that afterwards. Um, but the typical game mode was rush, and I do believe it was the first time they'd introduced hardcore as well. So you had no radar and your bullets, the guns do extra damage. But again, I felt all the weapons in that game to be fairly balanced. They really radicalized the knife system in it. I felt, whereas if in the first one, if you just knife, the knife would stay out. But in this one, if you just press the knife button, it would just do the swiping animation. Nothing would stay out. So you'd actually have to hold the knife button down for it to stay out and go off on your sneaky snake knife rampages. But there was quite a lot of cheap locations, especially with it was more vehicles. The introduction of the quad bikes. Plus you had the squad helicopters as well, and I can't remember the map. It was the one with the lighthouse, but I'm pretty sure everyone can remember the sniper ridge from the second base in Rush, in the Rush game modes. I don't know about you, but I had a lot of problems trying to get people, off that map, off that top of that ridge. Really, really, really frustrating. Because they would just be able to see everything. Good snipers will know where to snipe down from defenders on the next base in the little village. So it was a real pain in the ass, to confront. But again, maps were pretty good. I thought the snow map, or the one snow map in the dark, was a little bit kind of average. It was just too much. I reckon there was just too much to explore, too much field, too much scenery, and I felt they could have shortened the runtime from base to base. But that's just me anyway. They also tried to stop the spawn camping. Spawn camping in Bad Company was horrendous because there was no danger you're leaving the fields, type of thing. You would be able to spawn camp the absolute shit out of people in the first one. It's definitely how I used to run in my squads, definitely. But in the second one, they kind of stopped that. You knew your barrier. I mean, you could spawn camp, but it wouldn't be as effective as it would be in the first one. Definitely not. But from the second one, they actually introduced collapsing buildings as well. The first one still had destructible environments, but the second one actually introduced the collapse in the buildings, which was insanely fun, and it also introduced the parachuting. I'm pretty sure it was introduced in either 1942 or 43. But this is like the first time it had been on like a full-on console game, which is really, really cool. And then the third one, Battlefield 3, Away from Bad Company, I didn't actually have much love for it at all. I felt that the one problem I had with it was the introduction of proning, which for people who don't know, proning is it's just lying on your stomach, and this actually made it really cheap with the LMGs. As people know, people with LMGs, they just slap on the bipods, hug the corridors where, right in the corner was hard to see, and you're basically invincible until someone manages to lob a grenade onto you. And if you're lucky enough to survive, then you still carry on trucking. But it did trivialize quite a few of the maps. Especially Metro, a lot of corridors down there to camp in with. Good God, you go down into the Metro, and good God, you defenders have so easy. I don't know why defenders lost a lot of the time down that map. But the guns definitely had a bit more recoil than we were used to, thus increasing the skill factor for people to actually kill someone. Still had a destructible environment, although there weren't too many collapsible environments, or not that I managed. I didn't play it as much as I thought I was good, because I was hyped up for it, and then I got it in the new year, and I was just completely put off it. After playing it, it just wasn't what I expected whatsoever. But now, I got Bad Company 4. Oh, the Bad Company 4 Battlefield 4. Sorry. And I've had at least 2 to 3 hours. I managed to get squeeze in 2 3 hours of it. Tried the typical rush and the TDM, which is another thing they added in. That was the one thing I liked in Battlefield 3 was the TDM and the CQC maps. I felt that they must have started feeling like they were trying to compete with Call of Duty, which is a bit of a mistake on their part. But I suppose they're trying to try and keep their own uniqueness in the rush mode, but try and influence the other communities, who introduce more, like, you got your Crisis, your Counter Strike. I know that's PC, but even still, your Counter Strike, Call of Duty, etc. Try and get into a bit more. Try and give it that feel, so it can try and increase the market a bit. So I can kind of see if it's coming from a marketing point of view. That's still in Battlefield 4. They've also got Search and Destroy and Sabotage under completely different game mode names. Again, I feel this is trying to drag away the Call of Duty community mainly, but I have managed to have playing it, and I am really, 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 really falling back in love with the Battlefield franchise. I think they've kept they kept more essences of Bad Company 2, and they've kind of combined Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3, but I feel that they've kind of smoothed out the issues and the problems from Battlefield 3, and it does feel like a more complete game just before the next gen arrives. So it's going to be a lovely FPS introduction to the next gen consoles, which is just fantastic. Slowly though, probably since Battlefield 3, they tried to I reckon they've tried to emulate Call of Duty in the way they market, just with different names. Like, Call of Duty has Season Pass, Battlefield has Premium. I don't think it's really necessary. I mean, if you think about it, you pay average £40 for the game, and then it's another £40 on top, just for the extras. I do think that it's a little bit obscene to pay £40 for extras when it's the same price as a whole game. That's not just for Battlefield, that goes for Call of Duty as well. But being the popular franchises they are, people are, they know people will pay for it. So I guess they kind of have the customer loyalty going for it. But on the whole, what Battlefield has, unique for it is the destructible environment, the actual realistic, well, kind of realistic, what you can class as realistic in the video game. The bullet drop, the gravity, the sway, the proper recoil. The full-on strategy it actually takes to work, to actually succeed and do well in the game, is still as high as it's ever been. This is going back into PC days on, 2142 or 2042, 2142, whichever one it is. So it's always kept that essence of teamwork, always kept that essence of strategy, and obviously, the game enough, all the tricks, all the cheats, that, all that fun stuff. So that's my take on Battlefield. Moving on to Call of Duty. The first one I actually played was World at War. The first one that was actually bought for me as a present was Modern Warfare 2. So I had a massive transition over into into Call of Duty. Never actually played. I never played World at War properly. The first Call of Duty I properly played was Modern Warfare 2, and I'm gonna be totally honest. It was on launch before all the, well, not really on launch, for best part of 8 to 10 months. Whilst I was properly playing it, I did actually really, really enjoy it. It was something new, because all I was playing, FPS wise, was Battlefield. So it was something new, something to take me away from it, from the Battlefield scene. Something a lot more quicker than I was used to. Smaller maps. Guns were ridiculously like laser beams. There's zero recoil on all of them, pretty much. And it was just a radical. I was never used to kill streaks, and like the Harrier strike, chopper gunner, predator missile, UAVs even, because that's just something you're not used to as a Battlefield player. Because obviously it's just the the proper gun on gun vehicle, gun on gun vehicle, weapons, teamwork, all that. and then being thrown into a Call of Duty, you got all these customizable kill streaks. It's insane. And plus perks on top of that as well. You got level up your perks, get into pro perks just to make you even more invincible. It was it was like, whoa, what is this? And then I started going back a bit further into it. Before Modern Warfare 2 when I started, so I picked up COD 4 and World of War pre-owned, nice and cheap, and it was nice playing, the simpler games. Definitely, I preferred World of War at the time. I'm very big into the World War 2. Not just gaming, but I'm into the history of it as well. So I know it's fictional, but it's kind of loosely based on, on real life, events that happened in. Obviously, they add their own, fictitious, storylines and plots into it just to keep you in going. But it's all kind of relatable. And World of War I primarily played, whilst I was going in and out of shooters. And I love the fact of using the old weapons, because they actually Treyarch actually put in, slight gun recoil to make it that much more realistic. But there's the one thing I don't understand with the Call of Duty franchise is the two different makers of it. You've got Treyarch and Infinity Ward, and to me, I feel that the Infinity Ward games get a lot less hate than the Treyarch games. Everyone's, if you talk to a Call of Duty player, dominant one, if you ask them which one is the best multiplayer, most likely they will say COD 4. You can get that a lot from non-COD players who actually played it, and it is a good FPS multiplayer. It definitely revolutionized the experience, definitely. But I've always been under the always said that Call of Duty has always just copied other games' ideas and just revamped it under their own name and just given it their own little spin on it, which I guess there isn't anything wrong with copying, but don't try and say this like it's a unique idea, which a lot of people do under the false impression that Call of Duty came up with this and they came up with that, when really they just kind of get influenced by other creators and other games and just basically rehash it as their own name under their own alias, and then they sell it out to customers and it's like, yeah, this is we did all this is all us completely. Yeah, you go play another game, it's like, oh, this is exactly the same thing. But now getting back on topic, COD 4 Modern Warfare came along, completely radicalized everything, and then took a step back in history with Treyarch as they went back to World War II stages, and then you advance all the way forward to to Modern Warfare 2, and the game was good until it ran into the issues of, well, we all know the issues, commando knifing, OMA 1, danger close, the infinite hacking that went on, but we all know about that. The hit detection on it was completely sweet. It's the one thing I feel the Battlefield has lacked is, decent hit detection, even on dedicated servers. But considering this was on a P2P, the hit detection was absolutely perfect. There's no dying around, bullshit corners, wanted bullets going around a corner. The hit detection has never been the same ever since then. They've always, I don't know how they can fuck up so much, especially when they made Modern Warfare 3. They fucked up completely. I had no idea what the hell they were doing there. But then Black Ops, going back, I think it's Cold War. I think it's called. Anyway, going back in time again, back into the 50s, 60s. Using all the guns again, and being Treyarch, have always had the same problem. They've always tried to go for balance, and then there's 2, 3, 4 things that always make it unbalanced. Like, for example, World of War, MP40, OP. Black Ops, FAMAS, OP. It's just little things like that, which obviously they do make a big difference. The small mistakes do make a big difference to the whole game experience, I feel, at least anyway. It's definitely not fun going into lobbies and not seeing a variety of weapons. There's just the same people using the same stuff over and over and over, and it's not exactly them challenging themselves. It's just always using the MP40, always using the FAMAS. It just completely completely ruins the experience whatsoever. It completely shut me off the older ones, because I can guarantee you, if you go into, if the lobbies weren't hacked, you can go into a lobby of World of War and everyone would be using the MP40. If you go into a Black Ops lobby, everyone would be using the FAMAS. You know, it is just ridiculous. I feel that the franchise has slowly declined, you know, in multiplayer quality since Modern Warfare 2, I'd like to say. That's when the real hacking issues started to crop up. You know, people would hack the shit out of things. You know, you got your first problem with boosters, you know, tactical insertions, and obviously the introduction of the new kill streak. It seems that they thought, oh, we can hack Modern Warfare 2. Let's see what we can do to the others. And even, you know, the, you know, Treyarch, Activision, Infinity Ward, they all came out and said, no, we can't be asked to, you know, to fix this. We'll just work on the new one. We've already got your money. It's fine. And it seems to be the same attitude, you know, for everything else. And I don't think that's really fair on the customer themselves, especially, you know, people have actually gone out and bought the game. They should at least, you know, so especially if people are still playing it, they should at least still give like a small team just to support it. I mean, it's not exactly hard to patch over, you know, just to start. I know the hackers keep going in, but you just keep releasing patches or make it a little bit harder for at least to break into it. Modern Warfare 3 was just a blip to me. I know I did upload a video on it, but literally that's just a very, very bad memory. And then Black Ops 2. This is time as Treyarch are actually doing something a little bit more futuristic. Once again, they completely fucked up balance, in my opinion. Yes, they did stop Ghost from being completely the most OP perk ever from Black Ops, but still, it is still very, very, very abusable. It's not exactly hard to abuse. That you have to be moving for it to be active. You know, it's the easiest thing ever to abuse. Once again, the guns aren't balanced at all. They say they'd nerf this. Well, it could definitely fool me if they've nerfed, you know, this, and this. But no, I just feel that they trait with Treyarch, they're always that close to making it balanced, and they just completely shoot themselves in the foot. It's almost like they had to rush, you know, finishing off the finer details from certain things, and then it's just like it just doesn't work. And I haven't got Ghosts. I'm not intending on getting Ghosts, so I've actually had to rely on, you know, looking on forums. People have actually put up gameplays of their first look into it. So I've tried to look into as much of that as possible. From what I can see or heard, it doesn't reward rush players, which is what I am. I don't like to be sitting in corners or taking it easy. I like to be in the action, always zipping around everywhere. Once again, I don't know anything about the guns, so I'm not going to comment on them. They still have stealth perks like Ghost, which has been changed off the grid, I believe. I just really believe the stealth should just be taken out of the game completely. I'm pretty sure quite a few people agree with me that stealth has become completely OP since the removal of stopping power. And I was looking online earlier, and somebody made a very good point of when stopping power was a perk, everything was balanced, even though people complained it wasn't balanced. If you think about it, before Modern Warfare 2, your perk 2 slots, your main 3 perks was Camouflage in World of War, UAV Jammer in Modern Warfare, your Stopping Power, and then your what's it called? Your Juggernaut. They were all in the same tier. So it's either you sacrifice your extra bullet damage for extra health or staying off the radar. So you're either going to get the first hit, the last hit, or always going to hit first and last and stay alive. But now you've removed stopping power, there's no reason why that you should not use Ghost, Stealth, off the, whatever they call it. There's no reason why you should not use the perk to keep you off the UAV, because UAV is dead easy to get. It's only a very, very small kill streak, dead easy to get. It's easily spammable, especially in Modern Warfare 3 with the support kill streaks, which Ghost became Assassin, which is even more OP. There's no reason not to use it. I mean, I don't know, I think about 70-80% of the whole people playing Black Ops are over, both Xbox and PS3. Not to alienate the PC gamers at all, but this is just strictly console. But I think 70-80% of them primarily use Ghost, and that speaks a lot of volumes, completely to the actual game and perk balance itself. Because with removal of stopping power, there's nothing really like eligible to drop off as your stealth. The ability to stay off the radar, in completely cheap manner is just way, way, way too powerful to have as a perk where there's no other reason not to use it. So I reckon if whenever the next one comes out, if they bring stopping power back in as the same tier as the stealth perks, you will see a lot better balanced game, in my humble opinion. Just because you have to legitimately, God, I can't even say that word. Legitimately swap out, your extra damage for your stealth, or for your extra health. So it actually makes you, think what is more practical for you. You may, after this whole, stealth phase, you probably still will be people using, keep using the stealth. But if they bring stopping power back and bring it up to the same level as the stealth or the extra health perks, then you will see a lot more balance within the games. My comparison on Battlefield 4 and Ghost, like I said, I haven't played Ghosts. I don't intend on playing Ghost, I don't intend on getting it. I'm just going by, what I've heard completely. To me, from what I've played and what I've watched, I know they're two completely different things, but I'm just going to throw my opinion out. I do believe that Battlefield 4 looks like a much better refined game, and I do believe that it will outsell or do a lot better, statistically and publicly and review-wise compared to Ghost on the multiplayer front of it, especially when the next gen comes out. I think the problem that Battlefield has is, yes, it does advertise, but I don't think it advertises as heavily as Call of Duty does, because they advertise way, way, way in advance. They do a lot of marketing, a lot of publicity about it. But the one thing I think it lacks is a beta. I've never known for an open beta for Call of Duty multiplayer, which I think it actually absolutely needs. There's no point in testing it amongst people who actually want to pay to get it early, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, or testing it amongst internal reviewers. I think the right way is the Battlefield way of doing an open beta, so everyone can have their own feel for it, everyone can have their own 2 cents on it, they can outline, because your best reviewers are your customers, and if your target customers, if you want your target customers to buy it, you're going to want to make it good for them. And how do you make it good for them? You let them play it before you actually do all the fine detailed touching. The first beta, they did a beta for Bad Company 2, and I believe they've done a beta for every other Battlefield since then. And I think that is the way forward. Personally, I did hear that they did a beta for Black Ops. However, I'm not sure if this was public or not. I don't think it was, because I think I would have heard something about it being public. But apart from that, the only people who actually test it are people who get invited or happen to be at the right place at the right time for Call of Duty, like early play games whilst it's still in the development stage. I do believe that they should open it up to the public a bit more, like Battlefield is. And I think if they did that way, they would have a lot more feedback to work with, a lot more ideas to work with, and they'd actually answer the community a bit more than they say they do. They keep saying that they've made a game for the community. However, I do feel that if they actually gave back to the community a little bit and go, here's what we got so far, what do you think? And then the community can easily feedback on that. There's always forums open, there's always people from the company scouting the forums. You still got massive game reviewers going on. IGN, you've got your magazines, you've got the internet, your YouTube, blogs, forums, social media, etc. There's plenty of ways that they can track what people think of it and where they can improve it. It's not exactly something that would cost them a lot of money either. If anything, it would benefit them in the long run market-wise. Obviously, I'm not involved in business, but that's just my own thought on it. Where do I think these will go? Well, I think they've had a pretty healthy competition thus far. In the PS3, Xbox War. I don't like the fact that it's still fit. I know Microsoft pay Activision X amount of money to make it better for the Xbox, which I do think is a bit unfair. It kind of alienates your PS3 community, it's like they don't like regard them as a community, so we always get the shitty version of it. Um, which is what I can respect a bit more about Battlefield, is they don't care, if you play on Xbox, PC, PS3, whatever, the game will still play and feel the same, which is what it should be. You shouldn't, be subjected to a different game just because you're playing on a different console. I don't believe I don't believe that's fair. So that's always kind of put me off, always lingered in the back of my head that if I go out and buy it, it's like, yeah, but it's not going to be as good as the Xbox One. I don't have an Xbox, so it's a really silly marketing technique. And as I'm sure everyone knows, when the Call of Duty gets announced, it's always said available on Xbox. It never mentions available on Xbox, PS3, PC, whatever. It's always available on Xbox now. And I do believe that this marketing strategy will start to alienate people, especially when Ghosts comes out the honeymoon stage, like it will do very, very soon. Because we all know as soon as after Christmas hits, that's when the problems start leaking in, and then they just can't seem to patch it properly, and they always patch it wrong, and that's where the game becomes unbalanced, blah 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 blah. So I do feel that if they actually advertised it fairly, across all platforms you're going to be selling it on, you would have a lot better time marketing it. You'd have a lot. I reckon you'd have a lot happier, much more positive community about it, because I do think the Call of Duty community, because they keep pumping out game after year after year after year, they are starting to get bored of it, and nothing feels new in it. I don't think they've made many drastic changes to many things. I mean, the guns still like laser beams, the perks are still cheap, the community is still full of 15-year-old bellends. Nothing changes in it. Nothing's ever new in it, whereas you can actually see the progression the Battlefield has made from Bad Company straight over to Battlefield 4. And this is not trying to be biased, but the way I look at it is, with the Call of Duty community as it is, and I've read up on forums quite a bit, but nothing ever changes from it. It's always bitching about the same problems. This gun is OP, this perk is OP, you shouldn't have this in here, you should do this for the next one, you should do that for the next one. And that's not to say that it happens for the Battlefield ones, but the Battlefield weaponry, the vehicles, the equipment is all got its own sort of balance to it, except for the motion sensors of Bad Company. God, that was so OP. But I do believe that they try to balance things out a little bit more. They listen to the community a little bit more. Hence why I do think that they start to, they started beta testing come Bad Company 2, just so they can get a bit more of a community feel to it, and the community actually has an input in what they're producing out. Because at the end of the day, they're not buying the game; it's the community that's going to be, giving 96-97%, of the sales and the profits at the end of the day. So I can kind of respect that they listen to the community and what they have to say and what they have to take in. However, I don't feel that it's the same with the Call of Duty community. I mean, they do set up the forums, they do set up this and that, but I remember the Black Ops forum was always the same topics: nerf a mask, Ghost is OP, remove it. Everyone's sharing like cheap different tactics, cheap class setups. It's always the same stuff, and it's been like that since Modern Warfare 2 is carried over to Black Ops, Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2, and I'm pretty sure it's going to carry over into Ghosts. Hopefully that isn't the case, and it's nice to have two FPS franchises as big as these two, battle it out for best FPS game each year. I do believe going on paper, the Battlefield wins the award each year for the best multiplayer across PC, PS3, and Xbox, which just goes to show how much more of a superior FPS game it is to reviewers and to the majority of communities. But I do believe that the friendly rivalry will be carrying on through the next gen, and maybe something else will pop up. I would like to see another first-person shooter pop up in between them, just to give them a bit, to keep them on their toes. I don't think Medal of Honor, as excited as I was for it to come back, I was really hyped about it, because I remember playing the games as a kid. It was very poorly done. I just think it was a little side project for EA and DICE, just to mess around with, kind of like a test, and for the Battlefield games that will be coming out later that year. But I do think something bigger, like either a brand new franchise or an old franchise, regenerates, rejuvenates its field. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're gonna pump out an FPS game, you have to compete with Battlefield and Call of Duty. There's just no beating the way about it. You gotta compete with the fast pace that Call of Duty has, and the accuracy and the laser beam weapons and the OP perks and the OP kill streaks. And at the same time, you gotta compete with the chaotic ruthlessness and aggression that is Battlefield. So somehow, some way, you gotta either come up with something unique or something that matches those two, but in your own style, to even get anywhere close to what they have to, what they generate year after year after year. But that is basically my thought. God, I've rambled on for more than 30 minutes. Jesus, I'm surprised I managed to ramble on that much. But yeah, those are my 2 cents. I've probably missed off some points I wanted to make, but I just thought I'd like to get this out here. I do believe that this rivalry will carry on going on and on, because it always props up every year whenever a Call of Duty name is mentioned with a Battlefield name coming out around the same time. It's always mentioned, it's always brought up. So I thought I'd give my opinion just before the next gen consoles come out. To sum up both of them, if you're looking for a more team player strategy game, open maps, harder to kill with weapons, you want your challenge and working to your objective, you go for Battlefield. However, if you want something a bit more fast paced, smaller maps, easier to use guns, easier to just pick up and play, you go for Call of Duty. But that's my opinion on it. So this is me signing out now. I'll probably try and do a bit more of these whilst I'm fiddling around with recording equipment. It doesn't seem to be behaving lately for recording gameplay at the moment, but I'll keep fiddling around with it. I think for now I'll keep doing these like commentaries for as much as I can, when I get the time to do it. Just give me some feedback in the comments below if you want to, if you can. Follow me on Twitter. The link will be in the description, and I hope you all have a very happy selection. Whatever you choose, whether it's Battlefield or Call of Duty, PS4, XboxOne. I hope you have enjoyed getting it, and peace out.